Alright everybody, today we're going to be learning about CODE-4 rush. So essentially what a CODE-4 rush is when you have a guest in distress who is experiencing a major medical emergency and you want to rush them out of the pool as well as getting all other guests out of the pool during the major medical emergency. A CODE-4 rush has multiple parts, but primarily you have the primary lifeguard, the secondary lifeguard, and then you have the two other lifeguards and the shallow lifeguards. To the side of the wave pool, you'll have your O2 bag, which will be on the scene once you get out of the water with your guest in distress. The backboard will be rushed on the scene with the team to help bring your guest in distress out of the water to get immediate medical attention. Once you get your guests onto the backboard and get them out of the water, you want to get them 6 feet away from the water. Use the emergency exits on each wave pool to get them as far away from the water as possible to get the immediate medical attention that they need.
Now here's a visual representation of what a CODE-4 rush looks like in a wave pool. Now highlighted here you have the primary lifeguard and the guest in distress, both pointed out. You also have the secondary lifeguard, middle lifeguards, and shallow lifeguards, as well as all of the colorful little dots that are represented on the whiteboard. In the top right corner you have your O2 bag and the backboard, which will be rushed onto the scene. As the primary lifeguard, you have 10 seconds to scan your zone of protection and notice the guest in distress, or the passive guest in this case, who would be passive. So you're going to activate your EAP, 3 long whistle blasts, and you're going to jump into the water with your guard tube and get the guest onto your guard tube. You have 20 seconds to get to your guest in distress. Next, you're going to check for spontaneous breathing. So you're going to open up the guest's airway and check for spontaneous breath. And if there's no spontaneous breath, you're going to raise your fist and say, "The lifeguard needs assistance." Now, your job as the secondary lifeguard is to activate your EAP once you see that the other lifeguard needs assistance. So you're going to 2 long whistle blast, jump into the water with your guard tube, and start easing guests out of the water with your guard tube. And you're going to want to start getting them away from the guest in distress. So crowd control to get them out of the water. Now, while all of this is happening, the goal for the primary lifeguard is to get their guests out of the water and towards the backboard. So they're going to start pulling their tube and getting their guests towards the backboard to get them out of the water, all while rescue breathing. So they're going to rescue breathe on their passive guest while pulling them towards the backboard. The next step to a CODE-4 rush is that once the primary and secondary lifeguards get to the middle, the next 2 lifeguards who are in the middle on mid guard walk and mid A or B are going to jump in, activating their EAP just like the secondary lifeguard, and use their tubes to also help the secondary lifeguard get the guests out of the water and away from the passive guest. So they're just essentially just helping out the secondary lifeguard to crowd control and get the guest to safety. Once everyone gets to shallow, the lifeguards and guests, shallow is not going to jump into the water. They are going to maintain their productive 10-20 scanning and make sure that all of the guests and lifeguards get out of the water essentially before they can leave their stand. So they're just making sure all of the guests are safe and out of the water. By the time the primary lifeguard gets to shallow, the backboard will most likely already be on scene and the guests will be on the backboard being rushed out of the water to immediate medical attention. That is how you do a successful CODE-4 rush in a wave pool at Dorney Park in Wildwater Kingdom. I'm Miles Lizama, and thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.